The sky above Earth had stopped pretending to care. Silver Surfer descended through the upper atmosphere, his chrome body cutting a streak of light against the dead gray clouds. He'd crossed galaxies to deliver the message. Galactus was coming. The world below needed time to prepare to evacuate, to accept its end, with whatever dignity remained. He didn't know the world was already ending. The surfer slowed as he entered the orbital layer, cosmic energy rippling across his board. Below, the continents spread out in familiar patterns. North America, the eastern seaboard. Cities that should have blazed with electric light sat dark. He'd seen this before on dead worlds, but those had been consumed. This one looked intact. Wrong. This one looked hungry. They hit him from 6 vectors simultaneously. The first impact came from above. Zombie Hulk flesh split in cosmic burned arms the size of tree trunks, closing around the surfer's torso. The Herald of Galactus had faced the Hulk before. He knew the strength, the rage, the predictable brutality. This wasn't that. The grip was calculated, precise. It locked his arms, prevented him from channeling the power cosmic through his hands. Tactical. The second impact was Wolverine adamantium claws, shearing through cosmic energy like it was tissue. The slash opened the surfer's shoulder, and he felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia. Pain. Real pain. The claws weren't just cutting metal. They were cutting through the bond between Herald and power. Spider-Man's webbing came next, thick strands that smelled of rot and cosmic radiation. The web didn't just stick. It pulled, yanking the surfer's board away, removing his mobility. Below the mask's shattered lens, something that used to be Peter Parker, calculated angles, weak points, optimal tension. Iron Man struck from the left, repulsors modified with scavenged Stark tech and desperation. The blast didn't aim to kill. It disrupted the surfer's energy field, created an opening. The armor was patchwork, held together by genius and hunger in equal measure. Luke Cage came from below skin, cracked like drought-worn earth, but still unbreakable. His fist connected with the surfer's spine. The impact sent shockwaves through cosmic matter that shouldn't have been able to feel trauma, and Colonel America's shield raised eyes, cold, and Tactical orchestrated it all with hand signals. No screaming. No mindless feeding frenzy, just efficient calculated violence. The surfer tried to phase to slip between atoms and escape. The webbing held. He tried to channel his power into a nova burst. Hulk's grip tightened, and Wolverine's claws dug deeper, severing the pathways. He tried to reason with them. Colonel America spoke, his voice flat and certain. "We smell power. And we're still hungry." They tore into him, not like beasts, like surgeons who'd forgotten their oaths. Iron Man analyzed the energy signature in real time, directing the others to optimal feeding points. Spider-Man's webs formed a net catching the cosmic essence as it bled from wounds that should have been impossible. Hulk pulled methodical and relentless, separating Herald from board. The power cosmic didn't want to transfer. It resisted, loyal to its chosen vessel. The zombies didn't care about want. They had tools, they had intelligence, they had hunger that outweighed physics. Wolverine's claws found the connection point between flesh and energy. He cut. The surfer screamed a sound that rippled across 3 dimensions. The board spiraled away, trailing silver light. Without the board, without the ability to channel the surfer, was just metal and desperation. They fed. The process took 4 minutes. When it was done, 6 figures hung in the orbital layer, cosmic energy crackling across their rotting flesh in unstable patterns. The power fought them, tried to reject hosts so fundamentally wrong. They forced it to stay through sheer collective will. Below them, the atmosphere shuddered. Above them, something vast and purple began to eclipse distant stars. Galactus, following his herald's path, coming to a world that should have been warned. The zombies looked up at their next meal. Colonel America raised his shield, now edged with stolen cosmic light. The others fell into formation without being told. They'd gotten smarter, stronger. They were nowhere near full. The feeding frenzy in orbit went unnoticed by what remained of Earth's population. The survivors were too busy dying or hiding or trying to remember what hope felt like. Manhattan's streets ran with things that used to be people. The Statue of Liberty stood witness to nothing. The world had already ended in every way that mattered. No one saw the coffin fall. It entered the atmosphere over the eastern seaboard, trailing fire that burned black instead of orange. No parachute. No visible propulsion. Just a long, dark box cutting through the sky like a blade through rotted meat drawn by gravity and something else. Something older than hunger. The coffin hit Manhattan at terminal velocity. It didn't crater. Didn't shatter. It struck the broken pavement of Fifth Avenue and settled upright as if it had been placed there by careful hands. The impact made no sound. The silence that followed felt deliberate. For 17 seconds, nothing happened. Then the lid opened. The man who stepped out was tall, dressed in a way that belonged to older centuries and darker fairy tales. Red coat, black suit, white gloves, already stained with something that might have been blood, or might have been older than blood. His hair fell dark around a face that smiled like it had never stopped finding the world amusing. His eyes were red, not glowing, not burning, just red like something vital had been replaced with a color that didn't belong in living things. He looked at the ruined city, the broken windows, the abandoned cars, the shapes shambling in the distance, drawn by the sound of arrival. He breathed in air that tasted like decay and cosmic radiation and the death of hope. And Alucard smiled wider. A zombie rounded the corner, what used to be a stockbroker in a suit that hung off exposed ribs. It saw the stranger, smelled something close to life, lunged with whatever passed for thought in its corrupted brain. Alucard let it come. Let rotted hands close around his throat. Let the thing try to bite, try to feed, try to add him to the endless hunger. He tilted his head, genuinely curious. The zombie bit down. Teeth that had torn through Kevlar and bone met flesh that refused to tear. It bit harder. Alucard's smile never wavered. The thing pulled back confused in whatever capacity remained for confusion. Alucard reached up almost gentle and placed one white-gloved hand on the zombie's head. His fingers tightened. The skull crumpled like wet paper. The body dropped. He looked at his glove, inspected the new stains, made a small sound of disapproval like a man who'd stepped in something unpleasant. Then he looked up at the broken skyline, at the shapes moving in the darkness, at the city that had died and refused to stay dead. His voice cut through the silence, theatrical and cold and absolutely delighted. Try harder. More shapes emerged from the ruins. Dozens. A crowd of walking corpses drawn by noise and movement and the scent of something that didn't run. They surrounded him, a closing circle of hunger and ruined flesh. Alucard stood in the center coat, settling around him like a curtain before a performance. The world had ended. He had just arrived. And for the first time in a very long while, the predator had found a hunting ground worthy of his attention. The first zombie that tested him died in 3 seconds. The second took 2. By the 5th, Alucard stopped counting. They came in waves drawn by movement and sound and something deeper. Instinct told them he was prey. Experience should have taught them otherwise. But the dead don't learn. Alucard walked down Fifth Avenue like a man strolling through a museum. He examined the ruins with the detached interest of a tourist. The storefronts were shattered, their contents looted or rotting. Cars sat abandoned mid-flight doors, hanging open where drivers had run or been dragged out. A taxi had mounted the sidewalk and embedded itself in what used to be a Starbucks. The coffee smell had long since been replaced by something thicker. Blood decay and cosmic radiation. The trifecta of a world that had given up. A cluster of zombies emerged from a subway entrance, moving with the shambling coordination of pack hunters. 7 of them. Former civilians by the look of their clothes. A businessman, 2 students, a jogger still wearing her shredded athletic gear, a construction worker, a woman in a nurse's uniform, a cop with his service weapon still holstered. The cop was in front. Some fragment of training or authority made him the leader. His badge caught the dead gray light. It read, Martinez. Alucard stopped walking, waited. Martinez didn't charge. He circled left. The others spread out, forming a loose perimeter. Tactical positioning. Not perfect, but better than random aggression. The businessman moved right. The students took the rear. The construction worker and nurse stayed central, ready to surge forward. They were learning, or remembering. Hard to tell which was worse. The jogger broke first, sprinting with speed that still carried muscle memory. She came in low, aiming for his legs. Classic takedown approach. Alucard stepped aside, minimal movement, and her momentum carried her past. She hit the pavement, rolled, came up ready. The construction worker charged next, using her distraction. He swung a length of rebar, the arc calculated to cave in Alucard's skull. The weapon whistled through air. Alucard caught it one-handed. The impact should have shattered bones. His hand didn't move. The construction worker pulled, trying to wrench the weapon free. Alucard's grip didn't loosen. He looked at the zombie. Really looked. The thing stared back with eyes that were clouded, but not empty. There was thought happening behind that rotted face. Limited thought, animal thought, but thought nonetheless. Interesting. Alucard released the rebar. The construction worker stumbled back, surprised. The others hesitated, uncertain. They'd expected resistance, violence, the usual prey response, not curiosity. The cop zombie hissed something that might have been a command. The group tightened formation, preparing for a coordinated rush. Alucard smiled, finally. They came together, all 7 at once, angles of attack overlapping to prevent escape. The businessman grabbed for his left arm. The students went for his legs. The nurse aimed for his throat with hands that still remembered how to find vital arteries. The jogger came in fast from behind. Alucard let them connect. Let rotted hands grip his coat, his arms, his throat. Let them think they'd succeeded, that this strange prey was finally caught. Then he moved. His hand went through the cop's chest like the flesh was paper. Not punching, reaching. His fingers closed around the spine and pulled. The zombie collapsed, its coordination severed. The businessman lunged, mouth open. Alucard drove his elbow back without looking, connecting with the thing's jaw. Bones shattered. The zombie kept coming, trying to bite with a broken face. Alucard grabbed its head and twisted. The neck snapped with a sound like wet wood breaking. The students tried to drag him down by the legs. Alucard kicked simple and efficient. One flew backward into a storefront window. The glass that had survived the apocalypse finally gave up. The second student clung on, determined. Alucard reached down, grabbed its head, and slammed it into the pavement. Once. Twice. On the third impact, the skull came apart. The construction worker swung the rebar again, desperate now. Alucard caught the weapon, pulled the zombie forward, and drove his palm into its sternum. The chest caved inward. The thing staggered, kept moving. Alucard stepped in close and tore its head off. Simple. Direct. The nurse backed away, some instinct for self-preservation still flickering. Alucard let her retreat 3 steps. Then he was in front of her faster than the dead eyes could track. His hand closed around her throat. He didn't squeeze, just held her there, studying the way she struggled, the way hunger and fear warred in whatever remained of her mind. "You used to save lives," he said. His voice was conversational, almost kind. "Now look at you." The nurse clawed at his arm. Her nails broken and stained, scraped across his coat. No effect. Alucard's expression didn't change. He tightened his grip. The nurse's struggles weakened, stopped. He released her. The body dropped. The jogger was still moving, crawling toward him with one working leg. Persistent. Alucard walked over, placed his boot on her head, and pressed down. The skull cracked. The movement ceased. 7 corpses. 17 seconds. Alucard surveyed the results of his walk. Bodies scattered across the street in various states of dismemberment, not artistic, not elaborate, just efficient elimination of annoyances. He looked at his gloves. More stains. He made that small, disapproving sound again. This world, he said to no one in particular, lacks proper opponents. A sound answered him. Not a moan or a shuffle. A mechanical whir. Alucard turned. The thing that rounded the corner was different. It moved on 6 legs, 3 on each side, constructed from what looked like scavenged police motorcycles and shopping carts. The body was a chassis of twisted metal and wire. And riding it, fused to it, was something that wore the tattered remains of a Spider-Man costume. The mask was mostly gone. What was left showed bone and exposed muscle. But the eyes, those white lenses, still worked. They focused on Alucard with an intelligence that was sharp and calculating. Web shooters on both wrists. Modified. Enhanced. The webbing visible in the chambers had a sickly green glow. The spider thing tilted its head, studying him the same way he'd studied the nurse. Predator recognizing predator. Then it moved, not the shambling rush of the others. This was speed, real speed. The 6-legged chassis scuttled up the side of a building, leaving cracks in the concrete. It circled, repositioning, looking for angles. Alucard watched it move. His smile returned. Better. The spider thing fired webbing from above. Not to bind, to pull. The line attached to a parked bus and yanked. 2 tons of metal shrieked across the pavement, swinging like a wrecking ball directly at Alucard's position. He dissolved into mist. The bus crashed through the space where he'd stood, embedding itself in the taxi. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The impact echoed down the empty avenue. Alucard reformed on top of the wreckage coat, settling around him. He looked up at the spider thing perched on the building's facade. Clever, he said. The spider thing didn't respond. It fired again. 3 web lines this time, different vectors pulling debris from multiple directions. A mailbox, a street sign, a chunk of broken concrete, all converging on Alucard's position. He didn't dodge. Let the debris hit. Let it bury him under metal and stone. For 3 seconds, nothing moved. Then the pile exploded outward. Alucard stood in the center, undamaged, brushing dust from his shoulders. His coat hadn't even torn. The spider thing's remaining eye widened. It scrambled higher up the building, seeking distance, reassessing. Alucard looked at it. Really looked. This wasn't like the others. This was a thinker, a strategist. It had recognized him as a threat, adapted its approach, used the environment as a weapon. And when that failed, it retreated to regroup. Tactical intelligence. In a zombie. In a world where the heroes were supposed to be mindless eating machines. How delightful. The spider thing fired a web line across the street, preparing to swing away. Escape and ambush from a better position. Smart. Alucard was faster. He moved not running, but flowing, closing the distance between ground and building in a blur of motion. His hand caught the web line mid-swing. The spider thing jerked to a stop. Momentum killed. Alucard pulled. The creature crashed into the pavement chassis, crumpling legs snapping off. It tried to rise to scuttle away on the remaining limbs. Alucard stepped on its back, pinning it. The spider thing thrashed, fired webbing blindly. The strands hit Alucard's coat, his arms, his chest. They stuck, pulled, tried to restrain him. He didn't move. The webbing held for exactly 4 seconds before dissolving into mist, same as Alucard had. The spider thing stopped struggling. It turned its head, looking up at him with that one working eye. Understanding passed between them. Predator to predator. You can't bind mist, Alucard said. And you can't kill what was never alive in the way you understand. The spider thing hissed. Not aggressive. Something else. Frustration. Maybe respect. Alucard knelt down, bringing his face close to the ruined mask. Tell the others, he said, his voice soft and absolutely cold. Tell whatever's left that still thinks. There's something new in your hunting ground. He stood, released the pressure. The spider thing didn't attack. It gathered its broken chassis and scuttled away, dragging itself into the shadows of a collapsed building. Limping, beaten, but alive. Alucard watched it go. Letting it escape wasn't mercy. It was a message, and messages spread. Even in a dead world, information moved. He wanted them to know, wanted them to prepare, wanted them to try. He resumed his walk down Fifth Avenue. The shambling crowds that had been converging on the noise of combat suddenly stopped. They didn't retreat, just paused, sensing something their limited awareness couldn't process. The stranger in the red coat passed through them like a knife through fog. They parted. Let him walk. Some instinct deeper than hunger told them to let this one go. Alucard smiled at that. Even the dead recognized a superior predator. Above, the sky darkened further. Not night. Something else. A shadow that pressed down with weight that wasn't physical. Cosmic pressure. The herald's death scream still echoing across dimensions, calling to something vast. Galactus was coming, and somewhere in this rotting world, someone was still fighting. Still organized. Still alive. Alucard could smell discipline on the wind. Military precision. The scent of vibranium and determination. He adjusted his course, following the trail. The dead city stretched ahead. Somewhere in the darkness, something waited that might actually provide entertainment. For the first time since arriving, Alucard felt genuinely curious about what came next. The energy shield appeared first. A dome of pale blue light cutting through the darkness 3 blocks ahead, humming with power that felt clean in a world that had forgotten the concept. Alucard stopped at the perimeter. The shield rose from mobile emitters positioned in a defensive circle, vibranium technology keeping the dead at bay. Beyond it, he could see structures. Temporary but sturdy. A command post, supply caches, and people. Living people moving with purpose and discipline. Not survivors huddling in terror. Soldiers holding ground. A voice called out from behind the barrier, amplified but controlled. You, in the red coat, state your business. Alucard tilted his head, examining the source. A woman in crimson and gold armor stood on an elevated platform, spear leveled at him with professional steadiness. Dora Milaje, elite guard. Her stance was perfect, her weapon charged with energy that crackled softly in the dead air. 2 more warriors flanked her position, spears ready, eyes tracking his every movement. They didn't shake, didn't flinch. They'd seen horrors and remained standing. Impressive. Alucard smiled and raised his hands in a gesture of mock surrender. Just passing through, he said, his voice carrying easily across the distance. Though I must say your little fortress is the first sign of competence I've encountered in this delightful wasteland. The warrior didn't lower her weapon. You're not infected. A statement, not a question. Sharp observation. No, Alucard confirmed. I'm something else entirely. Movement behind the warriors. More figures appearing, creating overlapping fields of fire. 12 visible positions. Probably more he couldn't see. This wasn't a desperate last stand. This was a strategic holdout with proper military doctrine. The lead warrior made a subtle hand signal. The others adjusted their formation, creating a firing corridor. If he tried to breach the shield, they'd have 3 clear angles of attack before he could close distance. They'd been fighting smart enemies. They'd adapted. "Stand where you are," the warrior commanded. "Someone wants to see you." Alucard waited. Patience was a skill learned over centuries. A few more minutes meant nothing. The crowd of warriors parted. A figure emerged from the central structure, moving with controlled purpose. Black suit that absorbed light vibranium weave, unmarred by the world's decay. The Panther mask caught the shield's glow, blank and unreadable, but Alucard could smell it. Under the technology and the discipline and the carefully maintained composure, there was something wrong. Not decay, not infection in the traditional sense. Hunger barely leashed. Black Panther stopped at the inner edge of the shield, 10 feet from Alucard's position. For a long moment, neither spoke. 2 predators sizing each other up across an invisible line. The Panther's breathing was controlled. Too controlled. Each inhale measured, each exhale deliberate. The kind of breathing someone used when fighting an internal battle. "You're different," the Panther said finally. His voice was steady, but there was an edge underneath. Steel wrapped around something sharper. "You move through them like they're not there." "Because they're not," Alucard replied. "Not in any meaningful sense. They're hunger-wearing familiar faces. You know this." The Panther's hand flexed, almost imperceptible. "Do I?" Alucard's smile widened slightly. "Oh, yes. You know it intimately." The warriors tensed. One shifted her grip on her spear, ready to throw. The Panther raised one hand, a small gesture. They froze, but didn't relax. "Careful," the Panther said softly. "You're making assumptions about things you don't understand." "Am I?" Alucard took a single step closer to the shield. The warrior's weapons tracked him. He ignored them, focusing entirely on the Panther. "I can smell it on you. That particular scent. Bite victim, still walking, still thinking, still fighting the hunger every single second." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bone. One of the warriors, younger than the others, spoke without thinking. "My king, he's..." "Quiet," the Panther said. Not harsh, just absolute. The warrior fell silent. The Panther reached up and removed his mask. The face underneath was tired, but unbroken. Sharp eyes that held intelligence and will in equal measure. And yes, around the edges, a tightness that spoke of constant struggle. His jaw clenched once. A brief moment where something dark flickered behind his eyes. Then it was gone, pushed back down through sheer force of discipline. "You're right," the Panther said. "I was bitten. 72 hours ago. I should be one of them by now." "But you're not," Alucard observed. "No." The Panther's voice carried no pride, just statement of fact. "Will is stronger than infection. For now." Alucard studied him with genuine interest. This was new. In all his centuries, he'd seen people fight vampirism, fight curses, fight transformations of every variety. Most failed. The few who succeeded did so through magic or divine intervention or some external force. This man was doing it through pure stubborn refusal to break. "Fascinating," Alucard said. The Panther's expression didn't change. "I'm not a curiosity, and you're not welcome here unless you can offer something besides commentary." "Fair enough." Alucard gestured at the holdout, the warriors, the humming shield. "You're holding ground, protecting the living, maintaining order in a world that's abandoned the concept. Admirable. Also temporary. We know," the Panther said flatly. "Galactus is coming. Even if we survive the infected, we won't survive that." "Then why bother?" "Because the alternative is lying down and dying." The Panther's voice hardened. "We don't do that. We hold until we can't hold. We protect until there's nothing left to protect. That's what discipline means." Alucard laughed. Not mockery, genuine appreciation. "You sound like someone I used to know." She had that same stubborn pride, that same refusal to bend. The Panther waited. Alucard's amusement faded into something colder. I'm not here to join your noble last stand. I don't do noble. But I am interested in what's coming. What's coming? The others? Alucard gestured vaguely northward. The ones who ate your herald. They have his power now. Fractured, unstable, but real. They're hunting. And they're not stupid. I know, the Panther said. We've tracked their movement. They're heading this way. Of course they are. Alucard's smile returned. They can sense organized resistance. They'll want to break it. Test themselves against your discipline. See if hunger can overwhelm will. The Panther replaced his mask. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of command. Then we'll show them it can't. Alucard tilted his head. You'll lose. Probably. The Panther turned to one of his warriors. Get him inside the perimeter. The warrior didn't hide her shock. My king, we don't. That wasn't a request, Ayo. The Panther's voice didn't rise, didn't need to. The warrior bowed her head and moved to adjust the shield emitters. The Panther looked back at Alucard. You're not here to help. You're here because you're bored. Because this world is the first thing in a long time that surprised you. I don't trust that. But I can use it. Use it how? The shield opened a 10-foot gap in the barrier. The Panther gestured. Walk with me. Alucard stepped through. The gap sealed behind him immediately. The Dora Milaje formed a loose escort, spears ready, but not aimed. Professional caution. They walked through the holdout. Alucard noted everything. The sleeping areas, efficient and minimal. The medical station supplies carefully rationed. The civilians, maybe 60 of them, quiet and organized. No panic, no chaos. And everywhere the warriors. Dora Milaje maintaining perfect discipline, weapons, ready eyes, scanning. This isn't Wakanda, the Panther said, reading his observation. This is what's left. We evacuated what we could when the infection reached our borders. This holdout is temporary. A staging point. Staging for what? The Panther led him to a central structure larger than the others. Inside, a work table covered in schematics and partially assembled technology. Vibranium components, power cores, connective matrices. A machine. Incomplete but recognizable in its intent. Energy displacement, the Panther explained. Not a weapon. A redirection device. If Galactus comes, we can't fight him. But we might be able to bend his trajectory. Buy time for evacuation. Buy time for what Alucard examined the machine. There's nowhere to evacuate to. Then we buy time to die on our own terms instead of his. Alucard laughed again, softer this time. You really don't bend, do you? The Panther's mask turned toward him. No. Footsteps approached. Another warrior moving quickly, but controlled. My king. Northern sensors are picking up movement. Multiple signatures. Cosmic energy readings. The pack, the Panther said. Time frame. 20 minutes, maybe less. The Panther nodded. Full defensive positions. Civilians to the inner shelters. No one engages until they breach the perimeter. The warrior saluted and left. Around them, the holdout shifted into combat readiness. Smooth, practiced. Every person knowing exactly what to do. The Panther looked at Alucard. You're not one of us. You don't take orders. But I'm going to ask you one thing. Ask, don't touch the civilians. The Panther's voice dropped to something colder than command. Whatever you are, whatever you do out there, the people under my protection are off limits. Alucard met his gaze. The mask hid expression, but the body language was clear. This was the line. Cross it, and discipline would become violence, regardless of cost. I don't feed on the weak, Alucard said. There's no sport in it, no challenge. Your civilians are safe from me. The Panther studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Once, the alarm sounded, not loud. A controlled pulse that spread through the holdout like a heartbeat. They're here, the Panther said. Alucard walked to the perimeter. Beyond the shield shapes moved in the darkness, 6 of them spreading into tactical positions. Even from here he could see the cosmic energy crackling across their corrupted flesh. The pack that ate a herald. The ones who'd gotten stronger. Smarter. The lead figure stepped into the shield's light. Tattered remains of a Captain America uniform. Shield dented, but serviceable. Eyes cold and calculating. Colonel America looked at the holdout. Looked at the warriors. Looked directly at Alucard. Then he spoke, voice carrying across the barrier with unnatural clarity. "We smell power, and we're still hungry." The pack moved forward as one perfectly coordinated. The Panther drew his claws. Around him, his warriors readied their spears. And Alucard smiled, because finally, this world was about to provide proper entertainment. The cosmic pack hit the shield like a hammer blow. Energy rippled held, but the strain was visible. These weren't normal infected. They had strength that bent physics. The Panther's voice cut through the chaos, calm and absolute. "Hold the line." His warriors didn't waver. Alucard watched the Panther's hand tremble once, twice, as hunger and discipline warred inside him. Watched him force it still through sheer will. Watched him choose what he was going to be. This Alucard thought might actually be interesting after all. The shield held for 6 seconds after the first impact. Then it shattered like glass under a sledgehammer. Colonel America's shield, wreathed in stolen cosmic power, carved through the vibranium energy field. The barrier didn't just fail. It exploded, sending feedback through the emitters hard enough to melt circuits. The Dora Milaje didn't flinch. They moved into secondary formations, creating overlapping defensive zones. Spears charged stance perfect ready. The cosmic pack poured through the gap. Zombie Hulk came first, massive fists cratering the ground with each step. His skin radiated purple energy power that physics said shouldn't exist in dead flesh. He didn't roar, didn't rage, just advanced with mechanical certainty. Wolverine flanked left, moving low and fast. His claws shimmered with cosmic enhancement adamantium, now capable of cutting through dimensions. Behind him, Luke Cage formed a mobile wall. Flesh cracked, but unbreakable even by death standards. Spider-Man scuttled along the perimeter buildings, creating web anchors and tactical positions. The webs glowed with the same sickly radiation as the pack itself. Smart placement. Escape routes and traps in equal measure. Iron Man hung in the air, repulsors humming. The armor's patchwork construction didn't diminish its function. If anything, the cosmic integration had made it more efficient. His targeting systems swept the holdout, analyzing, calculating feeding data to the others. And Colonel America stood at the center of the breach shield, ready directing the assault with hand signals. No wasted movement. No hesitation. A military operation, precise, coordinated, hungry. The Panther's voice cut through the chaos, steady as bedrock. Ayo left flank. Nakia high ground. Okoye hold center with me. The warriors moved like water flowing into position. Spears leveled at optimal angles, creating kill zones that would funnel the pack into concentrated fire. Alucard watched from beside the incomplete machine hands in his pockets, genuinely interested. This wasn't a brawl. This was tactics versus tactics. Discipline versus corrupted intelligence. He wanted to see which broke first. Zombie Hulk charged the center, aiming directly for the Panther. The ground shook with each footfall. Okoye stepped forward, spear blazing with vibranium energy, and threw. The weapon moved faster than sound, a streak of gold and red that punched through Hulk's shoulder. The cosmic zombie staggered the first sign of actual damage. The spear exploded energy discharge, tearing through dead muscle. Hulk kept coming. Okoye dodged left as the fist descended, but the shockwave caught her anyway. She flew backward, hit a support structure hard enough to crack it, and dropped. Another warrior was there, immediately dragging her to cover. No panic, no screaming, just efficient casualty extraction. The Panther moved in claws extending. He went low under Hulk's guard and struck. Vibranium talons met cosmic enhanced flesh. The claws sank deep, found something vital, and twisted. Hulk grabbed him. One massive hand closed around the Panther's torso and squeezed. The vibranium suit absorbed the pressure, redistributed it, but even advanced technology had limits. The Panther's breathing hitched. Ribs protesting, suit integrity dropping, and something else. The proximity to infected flesh. The smell of decay, mixed with power, triggered something in him. His pupils dilated. Breath quickened. The hunger he'd been controlling stirred, drawn by the scent of cosmic energy. No, the Panther's voice was barely audible, meant for himself. His hand trembled. Claws retracted slightly as internal war played out in microseconds. Then his eyes cleared. Will reasserted itself like an iron door slamming shut. His claws extended again, drove deeper, and found Hulk's spine. He severed it. The cosmic zombie's grip loosened. The Panther dropped, rolled, came up ready. Hulk collapsed, massive body hitting the ground. Not dead. Regeneration already working, but neutralized for the moment. Wolverine hit the Panther from behind, claws extended for a killing blow. Alucard moved, not fast enough to save, fast enough to intercept. His hand caught Wolverine's wrist, mid-strike, stopping the adamantium claws an inch from the Panther's neck. Wolverine spun, bringing the other hand around. Alucard caught that too. They stood frozen for a heartbeat. Predator versus predator, both sets of claws inches from flesh. Wolverine's face, what remained of it, showed recognition. This was the one from orbit, the one the spider thing had warned them about. Alucard smiled. Hello? He headbutted Wolverine. The impact would have shattered a human skull. Wolverine's head snapped back, but he recovered immediately. Regeneration handling trauma that should have caused concussion. They disengaged, circling. Wolverine's claws dripped with something that wasn't quite blood. Cosmic radiation made wounds that reality itself struggled to close. Interesting, Alucard observed. Your weapon can actually hurt me. Slower than normal, but yes, I can feel it. Wolverine lunged. No technique. Pure berserker assault backed by cosmic speed. Slashes came from 6 angles simultaneously, each one calculated to open arteries that didn't actually keep Alucard alive. Alucard didn't dodge. He dissolved. Mist poured through Wolverine's attack pattern, reforming behind him. Alucard's hand shot out, grabbed the back of Wolverine's head, and slammed it into the ground. Once. Twice. The third impact cratered pavement. Wolverine twisted impossibly flexible and drove both claws backward into Alucard's chest. They punched through coat suit flesh and out his back. Alucard glanced down at the claws protruding from his torso. His expression didn't change. That's better, he said. Now you're trying. He grabbed Wolverine's arms and pulled, using the claws as anchors to yank the zombie close. Their faces were inches apart. Alucard's eyes blazed red, not with anger, but with pure, predatory joy. You heal, Alucard said, conversationally. I heal. We could do this for hours. But your friends are busy, and I have a show to watch. He released one arm and drove his fist through Wolverine's chest, grabbed the spine and pulled. The cosmic zombie came apart, top half, separating from bottom half. It would regenerate, eventually, but not quickly enough to matter. Alucard dropped the pieces and turned back to the battle. Luke Cage had reached the civilian shelters, trying to break through the reinforced walls. 3 Dora Milaje held him off, spears working in rotation to keep him engaged but unable to advance. Every time he moved forward, they repositioned, creating new angles of attack. Cage was tough. Cosmic enhancement made him tougher. But he was slow, and the warriors were not. Iron Man had identified the machine as the primary objective. He descended toward it, repulsors charging for a precision strike that would reduce the incomplete device to slag. The Panther saw it, calculated the distance, the timing, the probability of intercept. He wouldn't make it. Alucard could. The vampire moved faster than Iron Man's sensors could track. One moment he was standing over Wolverine's twitching halves. The next he was in front of the machine hand extended. Iron Man fired. The repulsor beam hit Alucard's palm, dead center cosmic enhanced energy that should have vaporized flesh and bone. Alucard's hand absorbed it. Not deflected, not dodged, absorbed. The energy poured into him like water into a drain, consumed by something that existed outside conventional physics. Inside the armor, what remained of Tony Stark's genius registered impossible data. The targeting system couldn't classify what it was seeing. Vampire didn't fit the readouts. Undead didn't explain the energy absorption. The machine intelligence cycled through possibilities and found none that made sense. Alucard's smile was visible even from inside the armor's HUD. "Your technology is impressive," he said. "But it's still trying to understand me in terms you can measure. That's your first mistake." He reached up almost gently and placed his hand on the armor's chest plate. His fingers sank into the metal like it was clay. Iron Man's thrusters fired at maximum, attempting to break free. Cosmic energy surged through the repulsors, trying to blast Alucard away. Alucard's grip didn't loosen. He pulled. The chest plate came away. Beneath it, the desiccated corpse that had been Tony Stark stared out with eyes that still held fragments of intelligence. The arc reactor, corrupted by cosmic energy, pulsed erratically. "You were brilliant once," Alucard observed. "Now you're brilliant and starving. Which do you think wins?" Iron Man's systems attempted to reboot to compensate for the catastrophic armor breach. Before they could complete the sequence, Alucard reached into the exposed chest cavity and ripped out the corrupted arc reactor. The armor went dark, fell from the sky, hit the ground with the sound of expensive technology meeting hard reality. It would regenerate, restart. But like Wolverine, not soon enough. Alucard crushed the arc reactor in his hand. Cosmic energy exploded outward, dissipating into the dead air. Colonel America watched it from his position at the perimeter. The tactical assessment was clear. 2 pack members neutralized. Hulk recovering, but slow. Cage pinned down. Spider-Man still setting up the web network. And the stranger in the red coat was dismantling his squad with the casual efficiency of someone who'd done this for centuries. The colonel raised his shield and spoke, voice carrying across the battlefield. "Fall back! Regroup at secondary position!" The pack responded immediately. Luke Cage disengaged from the warriors, moving with surprising speed for his mass. Spider-Man abandoned half-finished web patterns and scuttled toward the perimeter. Even Hulk, still recovering coordination, began to withdraw. Disciplined retreat, tactical reassessment. The Dora Milaje didn't pursue. They held position, maintaining defensive formation, waiting for orders. The Panther stood in the center of the holdout, breathing carefully. His suit showed stress fractures, his body showed strain, but his posture was unbent. He watched the pack withdraw to the darkness beyond the broken barrier. Watched them regroup, restructure, prepare for the next attempt. They weren't giving up. They were adapting. "Status," he called out. Okoye's voice came back steady despite the injury. 3 wounded, none critical. Perimeter compromised. Shield emitters destroyed. The Panther absorbed that, processed it, made the decision that discipline demanded. "We can't hold this position. Prepare for evacuation." "My king," one of the warriors protested. "The machine, incomplete and irrelevant if we're dead," the Panther said. "We move to secondary site. Now." The warriors moved to obey. Civilians were already being marshaled, supplies gathered. The organization held even in retreat. Alucard walked over to where the Panther stood. The vampire's coat was torn, exposing the chest wound from Wolverine's claws. As they watched, the flesh knit itself back together, seamless and complete. "You're running," Alucard observed. "I'm surviving," the Panther corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "From where I stand, you're delaying the inevitable. They'll follow. They'll adapt to whatever new position you take. Eventually, they'll overwhelm you. Yes, the Panther said. Eventually. But not today. Alucard studied him. The tremor in the Panther's hands had returned. Subtle, controlled, but present. The proximity to the cosmic pack, the violence, the stress, all of it feeding the hunger he carried. And still he stood. Still he commanded. Still he refused to break. You fascinate me, Alucard said. I've seen people fight curses before. Most fail. You're succeeding through nothing but sheer, bloody-minded refusal. That's rare. The Panther's masked face turned toward him. I don't need your approval. No, Alucard agreed. But you have my interest. And that's worth more than you realize. The pack was regrouping in the darkness. Colonel America stood at their center, running through new tactical scenarios. Eliminating variables that hadn't worked. Identifying vulnerabilities to exploit. The stranger was a problem. Powerful, unpredictable. Not bound to the defenders, but interfering with pack objectives. Solution: remove the variable. The colonel made a series of hand signals. The pack shifted formation. Spider-Man moved to high position. Cage and Hulk prepared for frontal assault. Iron Man's armor was rebooting systems, coming back online one by one. And from the darkness beyond the pack, something else stirred. A figure in a tattered red cloak floating inches above the ground. Movement wrong. Angles impossible. Space around him folded and unfolded like origami designed by a madman. Zombie Doctor Strange drifted toward the pack. His presence didn't strengthen them. It destabilized them. Reality glitched where he passed. Colonel America made a warding gesture, trying to establish distance. Strange ignored it, drawn by the concentration of cosmic energy by hunger and broken magic in equal measure. The wild card had entered play. Inside the holdout, the Panther watched the darkness shift, watched the new shape appear. What is that? He asked. Alucard's smile widened. That is chaos learning to walk. And it's going to make your tactical retreat significantly more complicated. The air began to smell like ozone and burnt copper. Portals flickered into existence around the battlefield, unstable and wrong. Zombie Strange raised one desiccated hand. Reality bent, and the battle entered a new phase, one where physics was a suggestion and strategy meant nothing. The Panther gripped his claws tighter. Around him, his warriors prepared for the impossible. Alucard stood still, coat settling around him, watching the space between spaces begin to fracture. Finally, he said softly, a proper stage. The Sanctum Sanctorum had been dead for weeks. Now it was haunted by something worse than ghosts. Strange's portals tore through space like wounds. In reality, spilling the fleeing Wakandans into corridors that shouldn't exist. One moment they were running through Manhattan streets. The next they stumbled into halls where architecture defied basic geometry. The Panther caught himself against a wall that felt like stone and liquid simultaneously. His warriors materialized around him in clusters disoriented but maintaining formation. Civilians appeared in bursts of fractured light, some screaming, most silent with shock. Regroup, the Panther commanded. Count off. The Dora Milaje responded immediately, voices cutting through the chaos. Present, present, present. 53 civilians accounted for. 7 warriors. The Panther himself. And somewhere in the shifting corridors, Alucard. The vampire emerged from a portal that closed behind him like a healing wound. His coat was torn, one sleeve missing, but his expression carried amusement rather than concern. Welcome to the Sanctum, he said. Or what's left of it. Strange's death didn't kill the building. It just removed the intelligence keeping it stable. The Panther's sensors couldn't get a lock on their position. Readings flickered between contradictory data. They were underground. They were 50 stories up. They were in multiple places simultaneously. We need to move, the Panther said. Find stable ground. Alucard gestured at the impossible architecture surrounding them. There is no stable ground. The Sanctum exists in layers, physical, astral, dimensional. Strange kept them separated. Now they're bleeding together. Then we fight in chaos. Oh, we'll fight. Alucard's voice carried that theatrical edge. But the pack is coming through too. And in here, their cosmic power becomes unpredictable. Reality is already broken. Adding cosmic energy to the mix, he didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. The first portal opened in the ceiling. Zombie Hulk fell through, hit the floor hard enough to crack it, and rose immediately. But the cosmic energy crackling across his flesh was wrong. Unstable. The purple light flickered like a dying bulb. Hulk charged. Not at the Panther, at Alucard. Direct, predictable. Alucard sidestepped. Hulk's fist demolished the wall behind him. The wall screamed. Literally screamed, because in this place, stone remembered pain. Hulk turned, preparing another attack. The floor beneath him rippled, turned liquid, and he sank to his waist before it solidified again, trapping him. "Strange is doing," the Panther asked. "The building's Alucard said." "It's defending itself." "Badly." "But defending." More portals opened. The pack poured through in pieces. Colonel America materialized on a staircase that went nowhere. Luke Cage appeared embedded in a wall cosmic enhanced flesh, preventing him from being crushed, but unable to pull free. Iron Man's armor crashed through a window that looked out onto a view of the ocean, despite them being miles from any coast. And Spider-Man landed on the ceiling, which was also the floor, which was also a wall. His remaining eye scanned the environment, processing the spatial impossibility with whatever remained of Peter Parker's genius. He fired webbing, not at targets, at anchor points, creating a network through the shifting space, establishing reference points that couldn't be trusted but were better than nothing. Smart, Alucard observed. He's making a map of the impossible. The Dora Milaje formed a defensive circle around the civilians. Spears out backs to each other, covering all approaches in 3 dimensions because up and down had become negotiable. Another portal tore open, larger than the others. Zombie Doctor Strange drifted through cloak, billowing in a wind that came from everywhere and nowhere. His eye sockets glowed with fractured mystic energy. His hands moved in patterns that would have been spell gestures if geometry still worked. Instead, they just broke space further. A corridor folded in half. 2 Dora Milaje found themselves standing on opposite sides of the same floor, gravity pulling them in contradictory directions. They kept their footing through sheer discipline and vibranium boot technology. The Panther's suit registered a dozen biometric warnings. His heart rate was elevated, breathing rapid. The hunger responded to stress, to adrenaline, to the smell of cosmic corruption saturating the air. He forced it down. Again. The internal war playing out in seconds, while his exterior remained controlled. "Io," he called out. "Eastern Corridor. Move civilians." "Eastern Corridor doesn't exist, my king." Io's voice was strained but steady. "It did 3 seconds ago. Now it's a wall. Then make it exist again." The warrior drove her spear into the wall. Vibranium energy discharged, and for a moment reality remembered what a corridor was supposed to be. The path stabilized, long enough for civilians to run through. Zombie Hulk finally pulled free from the trapped floor. He roared, the sound echoing wrong, coming from multiple directions simultaneously. His fists came down in a 2-handed slam aimed at the Panther. Alucard was there first, not blocking, redirecting. His hand guided the trajectory, turning the devastating blow aside by inches. The impact cratered floor that immediately tried to repair itself and failed halfway through, creating a pit filled with geometric contradictions. Hulk swung again. Alucard dissolved into shadow, poured through the space between atoms, and reformed behind the cosmic zombie. "Your power is impressive," Alucard said. "But in here, even physics is a suggestion. And I stopped obeying physics centuries ago." He placed both hands on Hulk's back and pushed. Not with strength, with will. The shadow that was and wasn't Alucard exerted pressure on a level that flesh, even cosmic-enhanced flesh, couldn't resist. Hulk flew forward through a wall, through the space behind the wall, and into somewhere else entirely. His roar Dopplered away into dimensional distance. Colonel America had fought his way free of the impossible staircase. His shield was up cosmic energy, making it glow with stolen starlight. He evaluated the battlefield with cold tactical precision. Separated pack. Unstable environment. Primary objective unreachable. Secondary objective, eliminate the variable. He pointed at Alucard. The surviving pack members understood. Converge. Luke Cage tore himself from the wall, bringing chunks of masonry with him. Spider-Man dropped from his ceiling floor position, web lines ready. Iron Man's armor rebooted again, repulsors charging despite the reality fluctuations wreaking havoc on his targeting systems. And Strange drifted closer, broken magic turning the space around him into a kaleidoscope of wrong angles. The pack moved as one. Coordinated, adaptive, still hungry but smart enough to prioritize the greater threat. Alucard watched them come. His smile widened into something that belonged in older stories, darker legends. Finally, he said, a proper challenge. The Panther saw the setup. Saw Alucard about to be overwhelmed by focused assault. Calculated the tactical value of the vampire's survival versus his elimination. Made his choice. Okoye, he commanded, covering fire on the pack. Keep them scattered. The warriors obeyed without question. Spears blazed energy bolts, cutting through unstable space to impact the advancing zombies. Not enough to stop them, enough to disrupt their coordination. Colonel America's shield absorbed 3 hits. He signaled adjustment. The pack shifted formation, compensating. Alucard moved first. He didn't fight them head-on. He used the Sanctum itself. Shadow poured from his coat like smoke, filling the corridor, turning visibility to 0. But darkness, in a place where reality was broken, became something more. The shadows weren't just obscuring vision. They were replacing space, creating new corridors, new rooms, new possibilities. The Panther watched geometry bend around Alucard's will. Saw the vampire transform environmental chaos into a weapon. This was what the Sanctum had been waiting for. A will strong enough to impose order. Not Strange's order, something crueler, but order nonetheless. The building responded, accepted, bent. Alucard's voice echoed from everywhere, theatrical and cold. You wanted to hunt me in unstable ground. Mistake. I don't need stability. I am the disruption. Spider-Man fired webbing into the darkness. The strands connected to nothing, or everything. They vibrated with contradictory tension mapping space that kept rewriting itself. Luke Cage charged blind. His fist connected with something solid. The impact sent shockwaves through dimensions. Whatever he'd hit didn't budge. Alucard's hand emerged from the shadow behind Cage, grabbed the zombie's head, and slammed it into a wall. The wall screamed. Cage's cosmic hardened skull cracked, not broken, but damaged. Iron Man's sensors cycled through spectrum analysis, trying to pierce the darkness. Thermal showed nothing. Electromagnetic showed chaos. Mystical readings went off the scale and stayed there. He fired blind. Repulsors lit up the shadow, cosmic enhanced energy burning through the darkness. Alucard was there, standing in the beam's path. The energy washed over him, through him, and dissipated into the shadow behind. You already tried that, Alucard said. His voice came from directly in front of the armor. I told you. I exist outside your measurements. His fist punched through the armor's chest plate again. This time he didn't remove the arc reactor. He grabbed what remained of Tony Stark's spine and used it as a handle, swinging the entire armored corpse like a weapon. Iron Man collided with Luke Cage. Metal met immovable flesh. Both went down in a tangle of limbs and technology. Colonel America adjusted. New variables, new tactics. He couldn't see in the darkness, but he could track sound, movement, impact. He threw his shield. The weapon cut through shadow like a circular saw through smoke. Cosmic edge making it ignore Alucard's intangibility. It connected with the vampire's shoulder, biting deep. Alucard staggered. Real damage. Blood that was darker than shadow spilled from the wound. He reached up, grabbed the shield embedded in his flesh, and pulled it free. The wound sealed immediately, but slower than normal. The cosmic edge had left something behind. Energy that resisted his regeneration. Alucard examined the shield, genuinely impressed. "This hurt," he said. "Properly hurt. Well done." He threw it back. Colonel America caught it, absorbed the kinetic force, but the return throw had more power than the original. The shield's impact drove him backward through 3 walls that may or may not have existed a moment ago. Spider-Man used the distraction. His web network was complete. He pulled. Every strand contracted simultaneously, collapsing the mapped space into a single point. The darkness compressed. Alucard found himself bound in webbing that had been placed in 4 dimensions, tied to anchor points in contradictory geometries. For 3 seconds it held. Alucard's eyes blazed red. The shadow that was his coat, his essence, his will expanded, not breaking the web, dissolving it. The strands unraveled into component atoms, then into nothing. Spider-Man scuttled backward, already calculating new approaches. His web shooters were running low. Regeneration couldn't produce more ammunition. He'd have to improvise. Zombie Strange had been circling the fight, broken magic making space shudder. Now he raised both hands and spoke a word that reality couldn't process. The sound came out sideways. The Sanctum responded to its former master's voice. Every portal in the building opened simultaneously. Hundreds of them, thousands, creating a network of holes in space that led to everywhere and nowhere. Gravity became optional. The Panther found himself falling upward, caught by forces that defied conventional physics. His warriors scattered across dimensional boundaries, maintaining formation by sheer reflex. Civilians screamed as they tumbled through impossible geometries. The Dora Milaje caught them when they could created safe zones where they could held formation despite space itself becoming a hostile element. And through the portal storm, the cosmic pack pressed their advantage. Separated but coordinated. Each member attacking through different vectors, different angles, different possibilities of space. Alucard stood at the center of the chaos, coat billowing in dimensional wind. His expression had shifted. Not concern, excitement. "This," he said, voice carrying over the roar of breaking reality, "is what I've been waiting for." He stopped holding back. The shadow that had been obscuring vision, creating corridors, binding space, exploded outward. But it wasn't just darkness anymore. It was presence. Will. Centuries of accumulated power given physical form in a place where physical was a flexible concept. The shadow had shapes in it. Figures. Echoes of everyone Alucard had consumed over his long existence. They poured through the portals, inverted. The geometry turned Strange's chaos into a hunting ground. The pack found themselves facing not one opponent, but hundreds. Thousands. All wearing Alucard's smile. All carrying his malice. The Panther watched from his gravity-inverted position as Alucard transformed the Sanctum from a broken battlefield into a domain of shadow and death. This was level 0. Or something close to it. The vampire's final release adapted for a realm where reality was already broken. Luke Cage was pulled into shadow and emerged from a different direction, disoriented. Iron Man's armor was stripped piece by hands that came from impossible angles. Spider-Man's web network became a cage, his own trap turned against him. Colonel America rallied. Attempted to organize retreat through the portals. But every portal led to more shadow, more Alucard, More hunger that matched the pack's own but refined over centuries into an art form. And Zombie Strange, seeing his chaos being used against him, attempted to close the portals. Restore order. Alucard's voice cut through the dimensional storm directly into Strange's decaying mind. No. You opened this. Now watch what I do with it. The shadow divided the pack, isolated each member in their own personal nightmare. Not killing. That would be too quick. Dismantling, breaking, showing them what it meant to be prey instead of predator. The Panther forced himself to focus past the horror. His people were still scattered, still vulnerable. Strange's portal storm was dying down, but the Sanctum remained unstable. He activated his suit's emergency beacon. The tone cut through dimensions, a Wakandan frequency designed to penetrate interference. His warriors responded, reforming around the signal. "We move now," he commanded, while they're occupied. The Dora Milaje gathered the civilians, using the shadow's distraction to reach stable ground, or ground that was stable enough. The Sanctum's lower levels, where the physical world still had some authority. Alucard didn't stop them, didn't even acknowledge them. He was too busy teaching the cosmic pack what terror felt like. The Panther led his people deeper into the Sanctum, leaving the vampire to his theatrical brutality. Behind them, the sounds of cosmic zombies learning fear echoed through impossible architecture. And above it all, through cracks in reality, a purple shadow grew larger. Galactus, drawn by the Herald's death, approaching Earth with the inexorable patience of entropy. The machine was still incomplete. The pack was still coming. Strange's chaos was still spreading, but they were alive. Moving. Still fighting. The Panther allowed himself one moment of satisfaction. Then he focused on the next impossible task. Survival. The lower Sanctum still remembered what stable meant, barely. The Panther's warriors had secured the chamber's spears aimed at every entrance that might or might not lead somewhere. The civilians huddled in the center, quiet with exhaustion. 53 people. 7 warriors. 1 king fighting himself as much as the world outside. The vibranium machine sat incomplete on a workbench, components scattered. Without the proper tools, without time, without the holdout's resources, it remained a half-finished promise. Okoye approached her injuries, wrapped but functional. "My king, the structural integrity is failing. We have minutes, not hours." The Panther's hands trembled. He clenched them into fists, forced the tremor to stop through sheer will. His suit registered elevated stress hormones. The hunger was winning the long war of attrition. "Not yet," he told it. "Not yet." "Status on the pack," he asked. Io answered from her position at the eastern entrance. "Sounds of combat above. Whatever Alucard is doing to them, they're occupied. But they'll break through eventually. They always do." The machine, the Panther said. "Can we complete it?" Nakia examined the components, her engineering expertise cycling through possibilities. "With proper equipment, yes. With what we have?" She paused. "Maybe. If we had 12 hours. We have minutes. Then no, my king, it's not possible." The Panther absorbed that, processed it, made the calculation that discipline demanded. "Then we don't complete it. We use what's here differently." Okoye's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The machine was designed to redirect Galactus. Bend his trajectory. Give us time." The Panther gestured at the scattered components. "But the core principle is energy displacement. What if we don't aim it at Galactus? Aim it at what? The pack." The Panther's voice was cold, certain. "They're saturated with cosmic power, unstable. What if we don't redirect energy? What if we scatter it?" Silence as the warriors processed that. Nakia spoke first. "You want to detonate their power, turn them into bombs." "No. Worse. I want to strip it. Bleed the cosmic energy out of them so fast they can't hold it. Force their bodies to choose between power and coherence. That would require direct contact." Io's tone was skeptical. Getting close enough to apply the device means getting close enough to be killed. Yes, the Panther said. It does. He didn't need to say the rest. They all understood. Someone would have to be bait. Someone would have to hold the pack in place long enough for the device to work. Above them, the sounds of violence intensified. Alucard's shadow play was ending. The pack was adapting even to impossibility. The Panther made his decision. Nakia, can you rig the components for remote detonation? Detonation, yes. Controlled drain, no. This isn't a weapon. It's unfinished medical equipment. Then we make it a weapon. The Panther's voice carried absolute authority. Wire it to overload. When it goes, it takes the cosmic energy with it. And anyone nearby, Okoye added. Yes. The silence that followed was broken by footsteps from above. Heavy. Multiple. Coordinated. They're coming, AO reported. All of them. The pack emerged through 3 entrances simultaneously. Colonel America from the North Shield raised. Luke Cage from the West Cosmic Flesh crackling. Spider-Man from a ceiling vent, web shooters recharged through some impossible means. Iron Man's armor was in pieces, but the core was intact. Zombie Stark had learned to function without the shell cosmic energy holding dead flesh together. And Wolverine had regenerated both halves, fused back together, claws extended. Zombie Hulk stepped through last massive form, blocking the eastern entrance. His cosmic radiation had stabilized, grown stronger. Strange's chaos had fed him, and behind them, while drifting through a portal that folded space into origami, Strange himself appeared. His broken magic had consumed the Sanctum's essence, grown fat on dimensional instability. The pack had evolved past their limitations. Adapted, unified. Colonel America spoke voice flat and certain. The machine. We take it. We complete it. We feed. The Panther stepped forward, placing himself between the pack and the components. Over my corpse. That can be arranged, the Colonel replied. The pack moved as one. The Dora Milaje met them with disciplined fury. Spears blazed, creating a wall of vibranium energy. But the pack didn't charge blindly. They probed, tested, found weak points in the defense. Hulk's fist came down like divine judgment. Okoye rolled aside the impact cratering stone. She came up throwing her spear. It punched through Hulk's shoulder, energy discharge tearing through cosmic flesh. He kept coming. Luke Cage grabbed 2 warriors, one in each hand, and threw them into the wall. They hit hard, slumped. Nakia was on him immediately, spear aimed at the eyes. Cage caught the weapon, crushed it, and backhanded her across the chamber. Spider-Man's webbing pinned 3 civilians to the wall, removing them from play. Not killing, just removing variables. His tactical mind, corrupted but functional, saw the pattern. Remove the soft targets, and the defenders would break formation. Iron Man's skeletal form grabbed components from the machine, analyzing them through cosmic-enhanced cognition. His hands moved with precision, beginning assembly even as the battle raged. Wolverine went straight for the Panther. Claws extended. No hesitation. The Panther met him head-on. Vibranium talons against adamantium claws. They collided in a screech of impossible metals, each looking for the opening that would end the fight. Wolverine was faster. Healing factor meant he could take risks. He took 3 slashes to land 1 strike claws, sinking into the Panther's side. The suit absorbed most of it. Most. But the cosmic edge went deeper, found flesh, and the Panther felt his own blood hot and immediate. The hunger roared. His pupils dilated. The scent of cosmic energy, of violence, of death, triggered everything he'd been suppressing. No. The Panther's will slammed down like an iron gate. His hands shot out, grabbed Wolverine's throat, and squeezed. The claws withdrew from his side. He ignored the pain, the blood, the hunger, screaming for release. His other hand drove vibranium talons into Wolverine's chest, found the spine, and severed it. Again, Wolverine dropped. Would regenerate, but not immediately. The Panther turned to see his warriors falling. Not dead, but overwhelmed. The pack was too strong, too coordinated, too enhanced by stolen cosmic power. Colonel America approached shield-ready. His movements were economical, efficient. The hunger had been refined into tactical perfection. You fought well, the colonel said. But discipline can't beat evolution. We're what comes after heroes. The Panther's response was cut off by shadow. Alucard emerged from the darkness like a rising tide. His coat was gone, burned away by cosmic fire. His suit was shredded. His white gloves were crimson with blood that wasn't his. But his smile was intact. "Did you think I'd let you have all the fun?" His voice carried theatrical disappointment. "I was just getting warmed up." The shadow poured from him, not the directed domain he'd shown before, but raw and uncontrolled. This was the true level 0. Every restraint removed, every limitation abandoned. Figures materialized in the darkness, not echoes this time. Fully manifested presences. Souls he'd consumed, given temporary form through sheer expenditure of power. The pack found themselves facing an army of the dead, led by a vampire who decided to stop playing. Zombie Strange attempted to counter broken magic against shadow sorcery. His spells twisted space-bent, time-inverted reality. Alucard walked through it all. The magic couldn't touch him because he existed in the spaces between rules. He grabbed Strange by the throat, lifted the zombie sorcerer, and spoke directly into his decaying face. "Your chaos fed me." "Thank you." He crushed Strange's throat. The zombie's body collapsed, magic dissipating like smoke. Without Strange, the Sanctum's instability began to collapse. Portals closed. Geometry started remembering what normal was supposed to be. The pack rallied around Colonel America. Coordinated assault. Maximum force. They hit Alucard from 6 directions, cosmic power, burning through shadow. And for the first time, Alucard staggered. The cosmic edge, enhanced by unified assault, cut deeper than anything had before. His regeneration struggled against 6 sources of reality-warping damage simultaneously. Blood that was darker than night poured from wounds that wouldn't close. The shadow flickered, weakened. The pack pressed their advantage. This was what they'd needed. Overwhelming force, coordinated timing, the discipline to work together despite hunger demanding individual feeding. Alucard fell to one knee. His army of shadows began to dissipate power redirected to survival. The Panther saw it. Saw the vampire, the predator, the theatrical monster actually wounded, actually struggling. He made his choice. "Nakia," he commanded, the device activated. "My king, it's not. Now." The warrior obeyed. Her hands flew across the component's jury-rigging connections that should have taken hours. The machine whined to life, unstable and desperate. The Panther grabbed it, held it against his chest. The vibranium core blazed with energy, seeking a target. He walked toward the pack. "What are you doing?" Okoye's voice was strained. "Buying time," the Panther said. "Get the civilians out. That's an order." The warriors hesitated. Training warred with loyalty. Training won. They began evacuating spears covering the retreat. Colonel America saw the Panther approaching with the glowing device. Recognized the threat. Signaled the pack to intercept. Too late. The Panther was already there, in the center of their formation. The device in his hands pulsed, reaching out for cosmic energy, hungry for it. The pack tried to scatter. Couldn't. The device's pull was magnetic, irresistible to the power they carried. "Get clear," the Panther said, looking at Alucard. The vampire, still on one knee, met his gaze. Understanding passed between them. "You're destroying yourself," Alucard observed. "No." The Panther's voice was steady. "I'm choosing how I end." He activated the overload. The device screamed. Energy poured from the pack into the vibranium core, draining the cosmic power that kept them enhanced. Hulk shrunk Cage's flesh, lost its impossible durability. Wolverine's healing factor stuttered, and the Panther holding the device felt it all pour through him. The cosmic energy, the hunger, the infection, the discipline he'd maintained for 72 hours. It burned. His suit failed. His flesh began to break down at the cellular level. The hunger that had been leashed roared to full strength, finally overwhelming his will. But by then, it didn't matter. The device reached critical mass. The Panther's last thought was clear, undistorted by hunger or pain or fear. Wakanda forever. The explosion was silent. A pulse of pure vibranium resonance that scattered cosmic energy about like ash on the wind. When it cleared, the pack was down. Not dead, but powerless. Reduced to what they'd been before eating a herald. Strong zombies. Smart zombies. But no longer cosmic threats. And the Panther was gone. Consumed by the device, by the energy, by the choice he'd made. His warriors had gotten the civilians clear. They stood at the chamber's entrance, silent. No wailing. No collapse. Just the quiet grief of soldiers who'd lost their king. Alucard rose to his feet. His wounds were closing now, the cosmic assault ended. He walked to where the Panther had made his stand. The vibranium suit lay in pieces. The man was ash. But the discipline remained somehow, present in the empty space like an echo that refused to fade. Alucard spoke to the ashes. You won. Not the battle, not the war, but the choice. You controlled how you ended. That's rarer than you know. He turned to the packs. They were struggling to rise, depowered and disoriented. Colonel America attempted to rally them, but without cosmic enhancement. Without the ability to coordinate beyond normal zombie capacity, they were scattered. Alucard's shadow expanded one final time. Not an army. Just himself. Just the predator, the artist of violence, the thing that had existed for centuries and would exist for centuries more. He fell on the pack like a storm. No theatrics, no playing. Just brutal, efficient elimination. They'd wounded him, made him work for victory. That earned them quick deaths instead of prolonged torment. When it was done, 6 bodies lay broken beyond regeneration. Colonel America's shield was embedded in a wall. The star cracked. Hulk's massive form was still. Wolverine's claws were snapped. The cosmic pack was ended. Alucard stood among the wreckage, coat reforming from shadow-white gloves, manifesting clean and unstained despite everything. He walked to where the Wakandan warriors waited. They didn't run, didn't attack, just watched. Your king was extraordinary, Alucard said. He fought himself harder than he fought anything else. And he won. Okoye's voice was quiet but steady. What happens now? Now, Alucard looked up. Through the Sanctum's broken roof, the sky was visible. And in that sky, purple light was growing. Galactus was here. Now, you survive, Alucard said. Because that's what he died for. Survival. Not victory, not salvation. Just one more day for his people. He gestured to the exit. Go. Get your civilians somewhere safe. Somewhere far from here. And you, Io asked. Alucard smiled. I'm going to watch a god try to eat a dead world. It should be entertaining. The warriors didn't argue. They gathered their people and left carrying the memory of their king, carrying the discipline he'd embodied to the end. Alucard remained in the Sanctum as it continued to collapse. Around him, New York was silent. The cosmic pack was dead. The organized resistance was scattered. The world was still ending, but it was ending differently than it would have. The Panther had changed the equation, bought time, saved his people. An Alucard predator without peer acknowledged that with something almost like respect. Above Galactus descended. His shadow covered continents. The hunger that ended worlds manifested in purple starlight. Alucard walked out of the Sanctum and into the street. He adjusted his coat, examined his gloves, and smiled at the approaching god. The world had ended. New rules applied, and he had all the time in eternity to explore them. In the distance, scattered survivors ran for shelter that didn't exist. The Dora Milaje led their civilians toward some slim hope of escape. And the cosmic shadow of Galactus painted everything in the color of inevitable conclusion. But the dead city had a new predator now. One who didn't need to eat, didn't need to feed, just needed the endless hunt. Alucard stood alone in the ruins, watching the end of the world, and found it acceptable. The stage was his, the audience was gone. And the performance could continue forever, exactly as it should be. The world didn't end that day. It just learned new rules. Where Alucard walked, the dead learned fear. Not the mindless panic of prey, but calculated avoidance. The smarter ones recognized his scent and chose different hunting grounds. The stubborn ones became object lessons in what happened when hunger met something older than hunger. He didn't save the world, didn't stop the infection, didn't restore hope. He simply became the apex predator in a food chain that had forgotten such things existed, a new law of nature in a world where nature had died. Not salvation, not destruction, just endless theater performed for an audience of corpses by something that would never stop enjoying the show. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.